U.S. weapons manufacturer Lockheed Martin is reportedly pitching new jobs for Canada. But that offer depends on Ottawa sticking to its plan to buy Lockheed's F-35 fighter jets. So last week, Prime Minister Mark Carney ordered a review of Canada's contract to buy 88 F-35 fighter jets as he looks to build new security relationships that are outside of our relationship with the U.S. A source is telling the Globe and Mail that Lockheed Martin is pledging to create jobs that'll stay here in Canada, but only if that review is called off. So for more on our country's options this morning, we're joined from Ottawa by David Perry. He's the president of the Canadian Global Affairs Institute. Welcome to your morning.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, let's set this up for everybody. Canada has the option to look for alternative suppliers after the first 16 of the 88 ordered F-35 jets are delivered. So on Monday, Prime Minister Mark Carney said that it is prudent and in the best interest of Canada to take a second look at this contract.
Canada's defense strategy has recently run into serious obstacles. Carney, aiming for a major political breakthrough, pushed the idea of stepping back from the US F-35 program and instead floated European alternatives like the Eurofighter or Saab Gripen. Media headlines amplified the story as a showdown with Donald Trump, portraying the U.S. president as shutting the door on Canada's defense ambitions. But behind the curtain, the situation looked very different. Washington still holds the keys to crucial systems and technologies that Canada's defense industry relies on. What seemed at first like a bold declaration of independence quickly turned into a challenge, with Canada now facing cost overruns, delivery delays, and growing gaps in military capability. Carney presented his stance as a push for sovereignty, arguing that Canada should not be locked into American defense projects or subjected to political pressure. Domestically, the message was powerful. It painted him as a leader willing to stand up to a stronger partner for the sake of national interest. The headlines focused on confrontation and drama, but in reality, both sides were calculating behind the scenes, weighing leverage, costs, and political risk before making their next move.
I'm announcing today that Canada will achieve NATO's 2% of GDP target this year, half a decade ahead of schedule. And we will further accelerate our investments in years to come, consistent with meeting these new security imperatives. Our plan will help ensure that Canada is strong at home and reliable abroad. We will ensure that every dollar is invested wisely, including by prioritizing made-in-Canada manufacturing and supply chains. We should no longer send 3/4 of our defense capital spending to America. We will invest in new submarines, aircraft, ships, armed vehicles, and artillery, as well as new radar, drones, and sensors to monitor the seafloor.
Behind Carney's public remarks was a carefully crafted strategy. Europe, with projects like the Eurofighter and Gripen, appeared to be offering possible alternatives. Canada even highlighted examples, such as Portugal's purchase of the Gripen, as proof that options beyond the U.S. existed. For Carney's team, this was not only about defense. It was also a chance to claim a political win at home and send a message to Washington that Canada could stand on its own. But the strategy came with major challenges. Switching to European aircraft would mean reworking maintenance systems, retraining pilots on unfamiliar platforms, and building new technical support infrastructure, areas where Canada's defense industry has limited expertise. While the headlines portrayed the move as bold and independent, cracks in the plan were already becoming visible. At first glance, Europe looked like an easy solution. Carney and his advisors leaned on that narrative, presenting European fighter jets as the path away from the US F-35 program. On paper, the idea seemed convincing, but in practice, the risks were hard to ignore.
The relationship we had with the United States, based on deepening integration of our economies and tight security and military cooperation, is over. I reject any attempts to weaken Canada, to wear us down, to break us so that America can own us. That will never happen. And our response to these latest tariffs is to fight, is to protect, and to build. We won't back down. We will respond forcefully. Nothing is off the table to defend our workers and our country. What exactly the United States does next is unclear. What is clear is that we, as Canadians, have agency. We have power. We are masters in our own home. We can control our destiny. We can give ourselves much more than any foreign government, including the United States, can ever take away.
European manufacturers had the reputation and experience to build modern jets, and several nations were already buying from them. The promise of choice and independence made Carney's pitch appealing domestically, and the press framed it as a daring move against Washington. But the reality proved far more complicated. Europe's slower production timelines, delivery delays, and Canada's lack of readiness to handle unfamiliar aircraft systems exposed serious weaknesses. Training crews, setting up maintenance networks, and integrating new technology turned out to be challenges without quick solutions. Even while Carney promoted Europe as the path to independence, officials there quietly admitted that without us support, Canada would face critical setbacks. What looked like freedom of choice was, in practice, a plan full of risks. One that left Canada squeezed between European promises and American control. Behind the dramatic headlines, the truth was clear. The United States still held the decisive leverage. Intelligence networks, supply chains, and advanced technologies were all tied to the F-35 program. Without access to those systems, any European jet Canada bought would operate with serious limitations, unable to fully integrate into existing defense structures. Washington signaled the risks bluntly. Moving toward Europe could cost Canada priority access to F-35 technology, the very capabilities that kept its Air Force modern and effective. Even European suppliers conceded this in private, noting that cooperation with the U.S. was unavoidable. On paper, the alternative sounded attractive, but without us backing, Canada would be left exposed. What was once sold as a bold shift is now being seen as a high-stakes gamble, and perhaps nothing more than a political maneuver. Instead of securing independence, Canada risks isolation, caught between European partners that cannot fully deliver and an American defense system that remains essential. Meanwhile, Trump and the Pentagon never needed a public confrontation. While the headlines focused on conflict, Washington quietly kept control. The U.S. could sell advanced jets worldwide without Canada, and that leverage left Ottawa cornered. Carney's attempt at a political win began unraveling quickly. As U.S. support wavered, European timelines slipped, and Canada's procurement plans started to fall apart. As costs spiraled upward, officials scrambled to rewrite contracts and prepare for the added burden of integrating foreign systems. What was originally presented as a $20 billion leap forward is now looking less like a show of strength and more like a financial sinkhole. Deadlines are being pushed back, and instead of introducing a modern fleet, Canada is stuck keeping its aging jets in the sky far longer than intended. The strain is already being felt at home. Maintenance crews are under pressure to keep older aircraft operational, while companies that once relied on steady U.S. supply chain work now face uncertainty. Aerospace jobs hang in the balance, and unions are warning that entire communities could be affected. For Carney, what started as a bold promise, choosing European fighters to demonstrate independence, is quickly being judged as a costly mistake. The defense forces remain overstretched, industry stability is shaky, and billions are tied up in programs without a clear timeline. Public opinion is divided. Some applaud the effort to stand firm against Washington, while others see a risky gamble that leaves Canada without the tools to defend its airspace or meet NATO commitments. Allies abroad are beginning to question Canada's reliability, seeing a partner caught between two worlds. In Europe, enthusiasm is cooling. Suppliers that once sounded eager are signaling delays and admitting quietly that without us cooperation, Canada cannot achieve full operational capability. Meanwhile, Washington is pulling back, with the Pentagon hinting that Canada may lose priority access to F-35 technology if it pursues outside deals. Trump, for his part, controls the narrative. While headlines cast him as angry and shutting the door, his message to supporters is different. Canada looks less like a nation asserting independence and more like an unreliable partner walking away from decades of defense ties. He emphasizes that America can sell advanced jets to markets around the world, with or without Canadian involvement. What was once portrayed as a courageous stand is now viewed as reckless. Carney's gamble for political gain is backfiring, leaving Canada with higher costs, fewer allies, and a military still far from modernization. Instead of expanding choices, the country is cornered, with Europe unable to deliver quickly and the United States unwilling to extend the same support as before. And that wraps up today's report from Zone Media Network. I'm Griffin, your host. Don't forget to like, share, and comment. It really helps us out. Be sure to check out American Zone for the latest updates, and I'll see you all again in the next one.